This project is a complete redesign of a client's existing product line for a new site. Old stuff was on the left, now we're updating it to what's on the right. The new look is high-key and colorful with some basic design elements. Goal is to keep things minimalist, and a lot of this requires video in addition to still. So the set then has to be continuous light because we have to do both on some of the same setups. These LED grow lights are all 3000K, so I'm going to match them with an equivalent tungsten, an old school Lowell Total Light at about 750 watts per head. These things are super cheap for just a lot of power. And then I'm going to keep the lighting design like the set design, simple. So what you have here is basically one bouncing off the ceiling, creating a giant softbox that is the ceiling because everything's white, and you have one that's slightly angled with barn doors at the product, creating a shadow. And in order to fill that shadow in, then we just have one LED flapjack, and that's basically just going to soften the shadow so that things aren't too harsh. And the rest is just about providing a technically sound environment that allows them to play and try different ideas. This is a really young, smart team, and so they're full of them. Dude with the glasses here is director of marketing. This is entirely his vision. He put together the whole concept, and we all participate a little bit in the execution. Commercial project manager in the brown blazer here, it was her idea for the hard light, and that absolutely makes every shot. The shadow is such an important design element here, it looks really bare without it. It's a brilliant idea. And I also show them the basics of how to use the gear so they can really take control. Great work can be the vision of one person, or it can come from a multi-mind approach, the result of collective contributions from a group that's fully engaged in one idea. So if a client knows what they want, let them play, it's fun. And when they don't, then you got to step up and make it happen. There's going to be a lot of posts on a project that runs a week long, so here are some of the highlights. There was a noticeable orange shift on the labels in the boxes, and the fastest way I could think to deal with that was to ask the client for the actual PDF of the box's graphic design, lay them side by side in Photoshop, cut and paste the color shift from my image to the PDF, and then I'm just bringing up the hue and saturation tool and seeing what adjustments need to be made to make it match. Once I find out what those numbers are, I'm going to go back to my image and make a general selection around the area, go into replace color, which is basically the same settings as hue and saturation, so those numbers will match, and then sample that area and make those adjustments. Done. Distortion. We're dealing with three-dimensional objects, straight lines. I'm trying to shoot these with a 200mm to keep that as flat and long as possible. But there's still going to be an issue, so some of this I did in Capture One Pro with the keyframe tool, and the rest of it I'm going to finish off in Photoshop just by using the guides and the free transform tool. And when all the basic production problems are solved, especially spot dusting on a black product, it's going to be crazy time consuming. And then the last stage is cropping, because these all have a set dimension in the website, which is a template provided by Shopify. The primary dimension is a short vertical, like a 1 to 1.33. Even though these will be smaller thumbnails, I'm going to make sure the resolution is really strong. I'm going to start by an 8-inch measurement on the short side, so 8 times 1.33 is about 10.64 or 10.5. And while they're lined up, it's really easy to make small adjustments in terms of color balance and contrast to make sure they all match. We already took a lot of time and care on set to match the position in switching out the blacks and whites in Capture One, so that when people are looking at the site and switching back and forth to black and white, the product pretty much stays in the same place. It's not as disruptive to the eye when people are doing that. My most efficient workflow in Photoshop for each product line is to make a layered PSD by taking all the products, putting them on top of each other, and then going into each layer, adjusting the opacity of the one on top to the one below so I can match them exactly, and then putting it back to full. And after each product matches black to white, then I can apply a crop to the whole PSD. And since the template is that short vertical, I'm going to make sure that all of the croppings line up with the one image of the sequence that is the most horizontal. Then I can turn on all the layers and save each one as a flattened JPEG in a sequence that makes sense numerically. And there it is, we have all these angles of one product line that all match perfectly together.